Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unleash Your Voice. Today, I want to tell you a story. No surprise there. But this is not about someone who was wildly underqualified. It's not about someone who needed 5 more certifications. And it's not about someone who lacked confidence. This is a story about a woman who was informed by her bosses that she would only have a job until the end of August in 2025. She found out a couple of months before. She was confident in her skills, but she didn't know how to position how much she actually had to offer because she had been in that job for a while. And she even said, my interview skills are rusty. I've been here for a while, for years. She also had this underlying feeling that she wasn't good enough. I remember her saying to me on our first call, I know I'm holding myself back professionally and personally. And she was tired. And here's the thing. She made a decision that she did not want to do that anymore. She didn't want to keep holding herself back. If that sounds familiar, stay with me because Riley's story might sound a lot like yours. When Riley came into the Unleash program, this is what was happening in her life. She had been doing website and graphic design for years. She was good, experienced, reliable. She had confidence in her skill set. But in her role, she was missing that passion and purpose element. She was craving opportunities to use more creativity and to be excited and energized about projects again. Financially, she wasn't getting paid what she deserved. And then she got the news that her company was shutting down and she would be out of a job. So when I asked her how important landing a new full-time job was on a scale of 1 to 10, she said 10. And when I asked how would it feel to get it, she said, I would feel great if I was somewhere where I felt like I'm enough. Let's pause there because how many high-performing women are walking around thinking that? I just want to feel like I'm enough. You might hear that and think, that's exactly how I feel, right? Not I need to be more, not I need to add more, but I want to feel like what I already am is enough. That's real pain. And it's not just at work for women, which is so frustrating, but we are constantly being told we aren't enough, that we need to be skinnier, prettier, younger, further ahead in our careers, better mothers, better wives. The list goes on. When really most of us are doing so much as it is, we are perfect as we are, even though we don't feel like it. And when it comes to your career, here's the thing. Adding more can seem like the right solution. If I get another certification, I'll be enough. If I take on another stretch project, I'll just be seen. But I've worked with hundreds of women on advancing their careers, and not a single one needed to add more. In fact, they've all been just like Riley. Riley's problem wasn't a lack of experience. It wasn't that she wasn't talented. It wasn't even a lack of confidence. It was articulation. She knew how to build brands because she did it for work, but she had never looked at herself as a brand. On paper, she looked like many other designers, creative, skilled, experienced, but nothing was differentiating her. Nothing positioned her as six-figure material. And this is the part most people get wrong, right? They start to think, I need more years. I need a better title. I need another course. No, what you need is better value articulation. You cannot show up to six-figure interviews using the same language you used to get your first job because the level has changed. And that means the expectations change and the conversations you're having in interviews change. That's why your articulation has to change too. So inside the Unleash program, we built Riley's personal brand from the inside out. And when she went through my signature discovery process, what I helped her to do is to define clear pillars, 3 clear pillars. And then I helped her to incorporate elevated language that would make her memorable and capture what differentiated her. I actually remember one conversation we had when she had talked about getting her graphic design degree and how it was the second time she had walked across the stage, the graduation stage. And I was like, oh, like, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had another degree. And she said, oh, yeah, well, I don't really like to talk about it. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed because I got this science degree first, but then I didn't end up using it because I went straight into design. I was really being pulled in that creative direction. And I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. You have a background in science? That's so interesting. That's so different. I bet it's not something a lot of designers have, right? Most people lean either into science or into art, but you had this interest in both. And then she started saying, well, yeah, I really liked like the process of science, the experimentation. And then as we started talking, I said, it sounds like this is actually your biggest differentiator because you bring that scientific process and precision to the world of design, which is such a unique combination of skills. And I wish I had a picture of the look on her face because it was just like this light bulb moment. And it wasn't just a realization, but she started to see herself differently. This thing that she thought wasn't worth talking about, was actually something she was embarrassed about, was actually her biggest differentiator. Okay, so from that conversation, I built this pillar for her. I blend limitless creativity with scientific precision. That line reframed her entire career. She wasn't just another creative, she was someone who combined imagination with structured execution. She had breadth and depth when it came to graphic design experience, and she also had a science degree that taught her structure, thoughtful experimentation, and precise execution. She could ideate and deliver, dream and operationalize. That is senior level positioning. We built her power story bank with about 10 key stories so she would be ready for any interview questions. Not vague answers, not buzzwords. Structured, detailed, impact driven stories where she said, I, so her contributions and leadership were clear. So, for example, just to give you an idea of how we used that new pillar, right? This pillar of I blend limitless creativity with scientific precision, right? It's not just something you have on paper. When she would be asked a question like, tell me about yourself, she would say, well, there are three things that have really defined my career in design. The first thing that really sets me apart is that I blend creativity with scientific precision. And I actually do that because before I got my graphic design degree, I got a degree in science. And so I really learned the importance of precision, structured experimentation, and then I brought that into the world of design. And I'll give you an example. I worked on this project last year. Okay, and then she went into her stories. Do you see how elevated that sounds compared to going through a summary of your resume when you get asked that question? So these are the things that make a difference. Once you have those clear, elevated pillars that articulate your value in a unique way, then you can build stories that show them in action. Okay, so when the interview started rolling in, she was ready. She actually messaged me one day after she finished the Unleash program. I had just sent her a DM on Instagram to check in. And then she said, you must bring me good luck. I received two great emails today. I finally feel like things are happening. But here's the key part. When we did a one-on-one prep session before her panel interview for one of the jobs that she had received a message about when I sent her that IG DM, during that prep session, she didn't have to invent anything. She didn't scramble, she didn't panic because her power story bank was already built. She had done it all in the Unleash program. All we did was refine, make a few tweaks based on the job she was interviewing for. And from the very first answer in that prep session, she sounded like a six-figure woman. Not because she changed who she was, but because her language matched her impact. And can I tell you, after that session, I knew she was going to get the job. I knew I would be getting a message from her that said, hey, I landed the role. Okay, so then a few days later, I did get the message. And she said, so I just received an offer and it's more than six figures. Her first ever six-figure offer. I teared up. I was so excited for her. She told me the hiring manager called her personally. She was excited, confident, and of course, relieved. She'd been looking for a new job for months, right? This wasn't luck. This wasn't, oh, someone finally noticed. She didn't even have a connection or an in to the place she got hired at. This was pure alignment. Her experience had always been there. But once she could articulate it clearly, confidently, and strategically, decision makers could place her. They could imagine her doing the work that warrants that six-figure salary because of her power stories. And when people can place you, they choose you. If you're listening and thinking, I know I'm capable, but I'm not landing it, when I'm in those situations where I have to talk about my value, my experience, I can just tell that the people listening aren't getting it. Here are 3 takeaways that I want you to leave this episode with. So, number 1, your experience is probably not the problem. You likely don't need more. You likely do need clearer language. Number 2, you must define your personal brand. If you can't clearly articulate how you operate, what differentiates you, and what leadership patterns you bring, you're going to blend in. And 3, you need those prepared, structured power stories. Interviews are not the time to wing it. They are the time to deploy. Confidence is often preparation in disguise. Okay, so if Riley's story resonated and if you are fired up, if you're thinking, okay, I want that too, I want to stop feeling scared and start feeling enough, I want to invite you to something I'm doing for the very first time. I'm hosting a brand new free 3-session live workshop. It is called the Power Story and Presence Workshop. It's happening February 24th to 26th. It's 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern on those 3 days. So 3 sessions from 12 to 1 Eastern from the 24th to the 26th. And as I mentioned, it's completely free. Over the 3 sessions, I am going to teach you how to define those personal brand pillars, right? Like that one we built for Riley. I blend limitless creativity with scientific precision. I'm going to show you how to do that for yourself, how to find those unique experiences that you bring to the table, and then how to articulate them clearly. Then I'm going to show you how to turn your experience into compelling power stories. So you'll learn my signature power story framework. And finally, you'll learn how to elevate your presence using the leadership language so you can articulate your value at the right level. If you're aiming for 6-figure or multi-6-figure roles, this is for you. You don't need to become someone else. You need to learn how to articulate who you already are. So you can register through the link in the show notes. I can't wait to see you there. If you have any questions, send me a DM on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And remember, Riley didn't become more talented. She didn't become more worthy. She became more aligned and refined. And that is what changed everything. I'll see you in the next episode and hopefully inside the workshop. Until next time, remember, your story is the one thing you have that no one else has. I'll see you next week.